In 1871, the Commission for Fish and Fisheries was created. On March 14, 1903, President Roosevelt established the first wildlife refuge at Pelican Island National Bird Reservation. 37 years later, the Department of the Interior consolidated the Bureau of Fisheries and the Bureau of Biological Survey into one agency, which is known as the Fish and Wildlife Services. The Bureau of Sport Fisheries and Wildlife was created as a part of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on November 6, 1956, by the Fish and Wildlife Act of 1956. The act was then amended on July 1, 1974, by public law to abolish the position of Commissioner of Fish and Wildlife and designate the Bureau as the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The philosophy of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is to work with others to conserve, protect, and enhance fish, wildlife, and plants and their habitats for the continuing benefit of the American people. The structure of this organization is a federal government bureau within the Department of the Interior. They manage non-federal, public, and private lands containing wetlands, fisheries, hatcheries, wildlife refuges, and ecological services field stations. They have created many important acts and laws, a couple of which are the Antiquities Act of 1906, the establishment of the National Park Service in 1916, and the Historic Sites Act, which is a historic American building survey in 1935. In 2015, the United States Fish and Wildlife Services, National Park Services, and the Department of the Interior enacted laws that restrict hunting and trapping practices on national preserves and on national wildlife refuges in the state of Alaska. On January 19th, the Safari Club, one of the largest nonprofit hunting advocacy organizations in the country, filed a lawsuit against them. The lawsuit claims that neither the National Park Service nor the Fish and Wildlife Services completed the proper National Environmental Protection Act processes for the regulations and asked the court to declare all the regulations as invalid and enjoin the agencies from enacting the regulations. The rules, they say, conflict with the state's ability to manage wildlife and interfere with Alaskans' ability to hunt and trap, among other impacts. The National Wildlife Refuge System within the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service manages a national network of lands and waters set aside to conserve America's fish, wildlife, and plants. Turnbull National Wildlife Refuge, which is just 6 miles south of Cheney, is part of the National Wildlife Refuge System. This property serves children with field trips and outdoor classrooms to learn about the environment, adults with interpretation programs and self or tour guided walks, photographers, hunters to stop the overpopulation of certain species, programs for the public with free field trip programs for schools and civic groups, bird field trip programs, which are bird-specific field trips, night hike programs, which is hiking at night to see the stars and hear coyotes and view nocturnal animals, the youth waterfowl hunt, which is 2 youth and 1 non-hunting adult to go and hunt waterfowl, the elk hunt, because elk are overpopulating and destroying the aspen habitat, and Turnbull is dog-friendly, so any dog owners can take their dogs, as long as they're on a 6-foot leash, to enjoy the outdoors and get a nice walk for exercise. There is a visitor center available for any questions you may have, various different restrooms located around the area, a bike rack, and a parking lot with a self-guided car loop that goes around different parts of the refuge. If you get out of your car and take advantage of the various different hiking trails available, be sure to check for ticks before you leave.